Hi guys, welcome to this episode of my podcast. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. Whether you've been following me for the last couple of years or you've been dipping in and out, or whether you've come across me recently, normally I'm the one doing the interviewing, or on the odd occasion I've been interviewed by Tara or Ben, a couple of members of my team. But today I wanted to speak to you, speak to my listeners, speak to my audience, and just do something a little bit different. You might have seen from the title or the thumbnails of this episode that I'm just going to go through 5 nuggets and insights that have helped me enormously over the years. In life and business, I keep a ream of interesting insights and nuggets on my iPhone that I collect as I go. And I've chosen 5 of my favorite, the top ones that I've been meaning to make some videos and content about individually. And so I thought, why don't I just group them all together into a podcast? And hopefully these things can resonate. I'll try and use my life experience and examples as much as possible. So hopefully you might be able to relate to it or understand the practical, real life effect of these ideas. And I'd love to hear from you what you think and whether these things resonate and whether you think this is a good format going forward. So without further ado, the first one's off the bat, nice and easy. It's a book recommendation. This is a book that I always have about 10 copies at home that I give people, guests, etc. It's my most gifted book because it relates to so many people and it's so practical and it's something that people can implement in their lives the majority of the time. It's called Influence by, I've got a copy here, Influence by Robert Cialdini or Cialdini. I never quite know how to pronounce his name, but this is one of the best. I've read hundreds of books, self-development books, business books over the last 5 or 6 years. This is one of my favorite because I realized that pretty much everything we do in life, particularly in business, but also in life, a lot of the time we're trying to get people to agree with us or to say yes, particularly in business, whether it might be marketing, sales, writing copy for your website, writing emails, reaching out to people. There's always an element of you're trying to get someone to do something, trying to persuade, trying to influence. But this can also go to our personal life as well, friends, families, kids, etc. Everything's a lot of the time a persuasion. So Robert Cialdini basically came up with 6 ways that human beings are influenced psychologically. The 6 main levers that we can use to get people to say yes, to persuade people, to influence people. And it's so simple and beautiful. I'm going to take you through the 6 points really quickly in a second with examples. And now, whatever I'm doing, particularly in business, whether I'm trying to do a marketing letter or a sales email or the copy for my website or something really important, I will literally draft everything and then I'll go back to these 6 points and say, have I ticked all of them off? Because if I can include all of the 6 ways to influence people, I know that I have a better chance to get the outcome or the result that I'm looking for. Okay, so without further ado, number 1, and there's no particular order, number 1 is likability. Everybody likes to be liked. It goes against our human insecurities for the fear of not being liked, okay? The need to be loved and liked. And think of that situation with a second-hand car salesman. I'm looking at a car and the guy goes, Charlie, do you know what? I really like you, buddy. Charlie, I like you. I like what you're about. And I can really see you in this car. Now, I know that he's just being a cheesy car salesman. But I also, whether I'd like to admit it or not, I quite like the fact that he's saying that. We all do. It's just subconscious. So that's the first one. Likability. We like to be liked, so we need to tell people that we like them and give them some admiration. Number 2, social proof. Social proof is critical. If we are trying to sell something or persuade someone to do it, if other people are doing it, or I can give examples of people with a lot of authority or status are doing it as well, you're more likely to do it, or the crowd's more likely to do it. David Beckham drinking the whiskey in the advert. Okay, David Beckham's drinking the whiskey, it must be okay. If he's doing it, I might do it as well. So you've heard of it before, probably, social proof, but that's an absolute critical one. If we're ever trying to sell something, shit, if he's doing it or she's doing it, maybe I should too. Next one is scarcity. If a product or service is limited, then that can create urgency. There might be a fear of missing out. So it could be a limited edition trainers. This works in the world of diamonds. They're not meant to be that many of them. So it creates scarcity and value. So more people want them. So always think about how can one create scarcity and therefore urgency around what you might be able to persuade people to do. Maybe there's a time factor, a time limit. If you're raising money for a company, maybe there's only a limited allocation left, for example. Okay. Next one is consistency. This is not that sexy, but it's the opposite to out of sight, out of mind. So it's just keeping relevant, just popping up every now and again. If there's someone, if you've got a mentor or, you're trying to get someone to sell from you, consistency, you need advice from someone, you want to be relevant in someone's life. If they don't hear from you for a long time and then you pop up and ask, then that's not necessarily conducive to the rule of consistency. So it's consistently being around, being relevant, and we've seen this in marketing a lot and advertisement, just that subtlety, that those messages. So when the time comes and the ask comes, it is more likely. The next one's authority. So it's no secret that people or companies with more authority and credibility increase their chances of persuading and influencing people. Because let's take doctors and lawyers. They have a sort of intrinsic credibility, doctors and lawyers, for example. Companies or professionals, you might have an accreditation, or you might have a degree from a university or a certification. You might be sponsoring a certain event and associating yourself with an industry brand. So by you can create authority in lots of different ways. You could be a best-selling author, that might give you authority. You might be a journalist in the New York Times, that would give you authority because you're associating yourself with an institution or brand with authority already established. So authority is another one that's really important to incorporate. So we've got likability, consistency, authority, scarcity. We've got, let me check my notes. And the last one, reciprocity. Save the best to last. We are more likely subconsciously to do things for someone if they've already done it for us. So, it's that Christmas card, it's the Christmas present, it's the, giving without needing to receive. We as humans are just more inclined to reciprocate if someone has already given us or done something kind for us. We can see that trick being played out in sales and marketing a lot. The free bottle of water when you walk into a shop, that's done there for a reason. Freebies and gifts increase our chances of feeling, oh, how nice, increasing the probabilities of us doing the same thing for someone else. So those are the six ways that he's proven through psychology, the psychology of persuasion, to get people to say yes, to help us influence and persuade people. So particularly, like I said, in business, but also in life, this has helped me a huge amount, particularly sales, marketing, business development, emails, copy for websites, etc., newsletters, anything really, where you're putting something out to try and persuade people to do things. Think of those 6 things. And oftentimes there'll be 1 or 2 that you won't be able to incorporate in that letter, but actually the practice of sending out the letters on a consistent basis. So that's my nugget number 1. Okay, so the second nugget is how to know who to take advice from and who to ignore. Now, this is probably, while being one of the hardest things to be able to do and conquer, it is probably one of the most important things to be able to hone your skill in. Let me give you some examples. I have made so many mistakes over the past where I ignored good advice and I took the wrong advice. So from both sides, it can be damaging deciding who to listen to and who not to listen to. 5 or 6 years ago, as a commodity trader, metals and mining space, I decided that I wanted to start my own business, and I was looking at materials of the future, and I was looking at future trends, what people were talking about, what people weren't talking about, technologies. And I spent about 9 to 10 months going deep into various different natural resources and metals in lithium-ion batteries. And to cut a long story short, deep dived into graphite. Not many people were talking about it. A lot of people were talking about lithium and copper and cobalt, but no one was talking about graphite, which was actually, one of the biggest components of a lithium-ion battery. And I could see that things were going to change, and geopolitics, and there was no one really in the West creating battery-grade graphite. And so I thought, you know what, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to get into. It's going to be part of the future. I consulted with a few people, and there was this one guy that steered me in a completely different direction. He was an industry specialist, a mining consultant. In the end, I decided to go a completely different route into low-value industrial minerals because it was a lot easier to get into and make money faster. That business model didn't work out because of too much risk in South America, and then COVID happened, and it was actually quite a good thing that I walked away from it. However, the moral of the story is 4 or 5 years later, battery-grade graphite outside Asia and China was absolutely the place to be. I would have been a lot further in front of everyone else. I would have already been an expert in it by then. I would have made progress, however difficult it might have been, and I really would have set myself up. So that was a massive regret. I wish I listened to my own intuition and went for it, and provided a few more filters on where the information was coming from, which I'll come on to in a second. Another example where I wish I took somebody's advice was where more recently, about 18 months ago, I was looking at different technologies of the future. I was looking at business models around waste to energy technologies, around something called gasification technology. I got really excited. I came across some technology, and I thought, crikey, this is it. This is what I'm going to be involved in. This is going to change the world. Everyone's going to adopt it. It's the future. And one of my mentors said to me, Charlie, I've seen this before. You are right. It probably is the future. There's too much technology risk. A lot of the scientists, they think that their technology is the religion. And even if it works at a pilot stage, there are always problems scaling it up. And he said, you're better off not wasting your time on it, and you're probably going to lose money. And I'm like, yeah, but. And I carried on for another probably 4, 5, 6 months working with these guys as a consultant, getting deeper into it. And long story short, he was absolutely right. And I came to that realization too late, and I wasted another 5 or 6 months. So that's a good example of where I probably should have listened to him. And again, using the filters that I'm going to explain in a second, I would have been able to make a better decision around who to listen to and who to not listen to. In some cases, we'll never know, but this is about honing our ability and intuition to at least try and make better decisions, because at the end of the day, we can't listen to everyone. The third example, more of a general example, this is extremely important for business leaders and entrepreneurs. If you've got a product or a service or a new business or an idea that we're trying to create, and we're trying to create something special and of value and different, we have to be careful who we listen to and who we don't listen to. Because if we go around listening to absolutely everyone, incorporating everyone's ideas, how it should happen, it's not going to be very special. It's not going to be that particularly high value necessarily. If we try and please everyone, we're not going to be pleasing anyone in particular. That can be quite a dangerous game, sort of listening to everyone and incorporating everyone else's opinions. But equally well, on the other side, if we don't talk to anyone, if we're not seeking feedback and iterating, you could spend a long time creating a product that no one really likes. So it's about finding that balance. Writing my book, for example, is a nice way to think about it. So I could have spoken to a lot of different people about how I should be writing and the style and to structure my book, but I've been very careful in wanting to create something a bit different and a bit special and something that's not out there. I've been very careful to kind of like not listen to too many people and not do too many writing courses and help me structure it and the type of book that I'm going to write. I've obviously been out showing it to people and getting a few people to read it, to make sure it has the desired effect on those people. But I'm always going backwards and forwards. Hang on, I'm not sure I should listen to you. You're taking me too far in another direction. I need to pull it back and really tap into what I think is the North Star. So we're always moving between who to listen to and who not to. How have I been able to overcome this and how have I improved decision making around who to listen to and who not to? There are three main areas that I sort of think about things. Number one is, who's the person giving the advice? What's the context? Are they a corporate guy or are they an entrepreneurial guy? Just that simple thing will provide so much content. Okay, but you're an entrepreneur, you're used to taking risk, these are your ambitions, this is how you operate. And then the corporate guy might be saying, yeah, but da, 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 da. And so you're like, okay, no, that's right. He's giving me that advice because he's more like that, and vice versa. Also think about what their ambitions are. What have they achieved? How might that be different to you? They might value different things to you. Always just think, where is this information coming to? What's the context? Are they wanting to think about how you have a comfortable life or things to be safe and not take too much risk? Think about that filter. It might be friends of yours that might be a little bit envious of you taking certain leaps of faith. But then equally well, it might be someone that thinks the same way as you, has done something similar, has spent a lot of time with you, knows your tendencies. And so you're ticking a lot of boxes close to you. And so maybe you should think more strongly about that advice. So it's creating the context and filter around who's giving you the advice. The second one, making sure we speak to enough people. So always speak to a lot of people, but in the end, it's always got to be our decision. Having our own self-worth and self-respect, presence of mind to be like, actually, okay, I've assessed, I've spoken to everyone, but this is what feels right within me, and making our own decision and thinking for ourselves. There's that famous saying, the average of everyone's opinion is 0. So at some point, one has to just make up one's own mind. And then thirdly, I think it's really important to be self-aware. Know yourself, know where you're going, know what your ambitions are, know what's important to you, know what you're trying to achieve. And that really helps have that criteria to be able to filter where the other information is coming to, because that will help you disseminate what to kind of take and what to disregard. Hope that makes sense. Maybe I'll just tell you a little anecdote quickly to really bring home how I've utilized these things in my life going forward. I've been able to make better decisions. So as you know, I've been doing a lot of this personal development stuff and putting content online. I had a situation where I hope you won't mind me saying this, but my brother got in touch earlier on this year, and I was posting a lot of sort of quite mumbo jumbo spiritual stuff, and he I think I was getting a bit overexcited, and he said to me, Charlie, what are you doing? We like the podcast, but this is kind of annoying us. Why are you throwing this down our throat? And we can't relate to this. I think he was talking to my mother. It got my back up to begin with, and I was like, yeah, but you don't understand, and this is what I'm trying to, this is what's worked for me, so hopefully it can work for you, and maybe you didn't know about this in the past. But I still took it on board, and I thought, hang on a second, no, let's think about this. I'm getting feedback from people, and in this particular case, I realized, hang on a second, what am I trying to achieve here? Okay, I'm trying to demystify the mumbo jumbo. People like my brother are my audience, who I'm trying to create like really practical stuff that doesn't sound mumbo jumbo. So there's more buy-in and more understanding. And I thought, well, hang on a second, I'm having the opposite effect here. So that actually made me think, do you know what? He's absolutely right. This isn't the kind of content I should be doing. I should be sticking to more breaking down, demystifying, simplifying things. And I stopped doing that. So that's a good example of where I did take the advice. And then conversely, one of my friends got in touch and said, "Oh, Charley, what are you doing with this podcast? You're interviewing all these posh people, and I don't like the brand and this and that, and it's a bit embarrassing." And again, I went through exactly the same exercise. I thought, shit, it really made me question whether I was on the right path or not. But to that point, I thought, no, this is the right track. Hopefully it's going to lead to other people, more diverse people. It's a process. This is where we're going with it. Things are going to evolve. I have plans further down the road. And so I didn't derail or change anything or shut down the podcast because I was worried about what people think or certain opinions, because I checked in with myself and I was like, no, this is where I'm going and this is what feels right. It did make me be more conscious about things like diversity in my brand and how people see me. But I just think it's the same thing coming at different angles of when I took advice and didn't take advice. So that's the second nugget. Hopefully that was helpful. Nugget number 3, how attachment to certain people and attachment to a fixed identity of ourselves can be seriously damaging in life. So I'll give you another personal example. In my late 20s, early 30s, I used to identify I was the flash commodity trader, running around the world, making lots of money, being a bit of a womanizer, thinking that I was kind of God's gift. I created a circle of lots of friends, acquaintances, business partners, colleagues, mentors, and I guess they expected me to be a certain way. That's who I identified with. But as I evolved into my mid-30s, late 30s, I changed. I got into spirituality and self-awareness and personal development, and I started to change the way that I was, change the way I thought, change the things that I enjoyed, change the things that I liked speaking about and valued and prioritized. I wasn't flash anymore, and I wasn't making a lot of money anymore. And I think that I definitely noticed myself whenever I was around a lot of these people that expected me to be a certain way, I didn't really have the balls to kind of like be that new version of me. I was still fixed on that old identity, and I was quite attached to needing those people to think that way about me. And so I used to try and justify things a lot, or no, don't worry, but there's a big opportunity here and I'm going to make a lot of money, and playing down the self-development thing because I was kind of worried what they might think, and kind of just like being the old me, which was a bit fake, and not really embracing the new me. And that didn't really feel great, but I noticed myself doing it a lot of the time. I was still attached to those people and what they thought about me. So it wasn't until I kind of dug into what was really going on that I got clarity. This might help you understand it as well. So I had this fixed identity of how I used to be, the flash commodity trader. Our identity is very, very much linked to our ego. Our ego clings on to our identity because that's what gives us our self-worth. So we've got our fixed identity, and our ego is very closely intertwined with that identity. Our ego clings onto it. We don't like to let go of that identity that we're fixed to because it gives us self-worth. This is all linked to something that I like to call our daily scorecard. Okay, so if we have an idea of how we're meant to be and what we identify as, so the flash commodity trader, the highly successful professional sportsman, the top fashion model, we identify as these things. And when we go out into the world about our business, how we perform, how people see us, what we're doing, what we're saying, what we're achieving, if it ranks high on our scorecard that basically says our scorecard is the flash commodity trader, our scorecard does say that, with the top professional sportsman, our scorecard does say that with the top model and everything that goes around that, then we feel good. It reinforces our self-worth. However, if that's not the case, and you go about your day and your scorecard is, there's an expectation gap. There's a gap between what we identify as and what our reality has come to, the unsuccessful businessman or the person with the different values and isn't going around womanizing all the time and showing off and getting all that admiration, the retired sportsman who isn't a sportsman anymore but identifies that, the aging model who's lost their looks maybe and they're not the model anymore that they used to be, and there's that identity gap. We can feel shit, but we cling on to that old version of ourselves and that old identity. So what can we do about this? We can change our fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Our fixed mindset tells us that these talents, our abilities, our identity, that's just the way we are and there's nothing we can do it. Our beliefs and our values and our identity, nothing we can do about it. Growth mindset, we can evolve, we can create a new identity, we can develop new skills, we can develop new abilities, and we can grow beyond where we are. And so I think the thing that sums everything up perfectly is there's that decision to either be the person that people expect you to be and remain attached to that self-fulfilling, reinforcing loop of people, opinions, fixed identity, ego, and self-worth, or having the courage to be authentic in yourself and risking detaching from those people and those opinions and pushing away from the ego, the monkey mind, all those deep intrinsic forces within us that are kind of resisting us breaking away and being authentic and living more and being more how we are and adopting that growth mindset. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot. I don't know if that resonates with you, but that's my third nugget. Okay, nugget number 4, how to know when to take action in a big decision and how to know when to deliberate more, take a little bit more time and do a bit more research. I really like this one because it's super simple, but I feel there's a lot of conflicting advice, but also a lot of the consensus advice is don't overthink, don't procrastinate, don't be a perfectionist, and just take action, just get going. And I don't believe that that's necessarily true. For 15 to 18 years of my career, I've done nothing but take action, hardcore action the whole time. And it hasn't really necessarily served me very well. I've had a lot of lessons and a lot of learnings, a lot of failures, which is positive, but I cut corners. I worked with the wrong people. I had the wrong business models. I set myself up wrong. I was maybe working in the wrong sectors or situations that didn't suit my nature. And so here I am, and I actually wish that I didn't take as much action, and I wish that I was more thoughtful and slower and more considered. I split this sort of decision making into 2 main segments. First of all, you've got the low stakes decisions, the decisions that you can make that are not going to have a massive detrimental long-term impact on you. It's sort of the short-term stuff, the basic need stuff. So I was in a situation where I was living at home with my mum. I didn't have a job. I didn't have my own place. I wasn't particularly happy because I'd sort of lost my independence and everything was a bit uncertain. So I realized, it took me a while to realize, but I now realize, and I took the advice of someone, that I just had to make a decision. It didn't matter what I did. I just had to go and get any job, to rent myself an apartment, and that would give me that certainty and that independence that I needed to kind of calm and set myself on a better trajectory. But importantly, create a framework of patience around me. So when I was then going on to thinking about the big decisions, where did I want to live? What did I want to do? What business might I have wanted to start? Those big, difficult life decisions, particularly in your 30s or 40s, where you don't want to necessarily try lots of things and have a go at something and be back where you started in 3 or 4 years. It was a far better place to think about those bigger decisions. So that's the first segment is the low stake, short term, basic needs. If you just need to sort your shit out, it doesn't really matter what you are going to act on. Just take action and overcome those things going on in your life. The more high stakes decisions, the longer term consequences of certain big decisions, starting a business, moving to a new country, where you're going to live, what you might want to do, you might be transitioning into a new business career. All of these things have a big impact. And it's certainly my opinion that it is worth spending a longer time thinking about things. I will caveat this by saying if you're in your teens or in your 20s, then I would encourage to take more action. Don't overthink things. Try lots of stuff, particularly if you don't have the answer to what you want to do and you're deliberating. Try lots of things, create lots of data points. You've got time to fail. That's great. You're going to learn the most, and then you can harness all that knowledge and all those data points later on to sort of inform the bigger decisions. But certainly going back to the sort of 30s and 40s, you want to get it right. You don't want to make a big decision where you're going to be ended up back where you started for. It really does pay to do more research, talk to more people, look at different types of business models. It helped me a lot over the last 18 months. Rather than just pulling the trigger and figuring out what I wanted to do, I went down lots of different rabbit holes, 6 weeks at a time. I kind of bottomed things out. It's like, oh, actually, no, I got really excited about things, but then bottomed that, that's not quite right. That market, there's too much risk, or there's too much technology risk there, or that sector is too saturated, or that business model is not going to be able to work. I'm going to run into that problem further down the line, or you won't be able to scale this, or there's too much uncertainty. If I had jumped into any one of those things, I could have regretted that massively and been 3-4 years down the road and be back where I started. So I was really glad that I just hold it and waited, and sure, that has taken months, but I now feel in a much better position to make more considered decisions going forward. And I think entrepreneurs and people deciding what businesses to start, this is so important. There's always that discussion about what's more important, choosing what business or the execution. Everyone always talks about the execution, which is absolutely true, but how many people have made a choice on a business or a sector and a business model, and then 18 months, 2 years down the road, they're like, oh God, if I didn't realize this and this didn't really work because of those reasons. And yes, it's obviously very good to iterate in a business and pivot, etc. But I come across a lot of situations where it just doesn't work completely because of things that really, with a little bit more foresight and research, could have been bottomed out and figured out around business plans, and you can't scale like this, or you come to that roadblock or that bottleneck. It can really stand you in a lot of good stead, particularly if you're going to start a new business. Just doubling down on really trying to get the choice right and thinking about that. And then of course, all things equal with choice, then execution is the most important thing. But finally, as we've all heard before, one has to know that one has to make a decision at the end of the day. We can't go on procrastinating, perfecting, and overthinking forever. The only danger is not making a decision. There's more risk in not making a decision and being out of any market or out of any situation than actually making a decision. We're never going to know 100%. We're never going to have all of the answers. We're never going to be fully certain about everything. But this is where self-awareness comes in, and knowing oneself, because being able to decipher whether one is being overly cautious and overthinking, and whether you actually have enough or you don't have enough. And it can be fear sometimes, and it can be comfort. There can be all sorts of things going on. So it's a very intuitive feeling. So we've got to make the jump at the end of the day. You're never going to have all the answers. It really helps to have enough information and insight and confidence to make the move. So again, it's highly contextual. There's a lot of nuance there, but I just hope, riffing a little bit about how I think about making decisions quickly and not making decisions quickly, I might be able to help you. All right, nugget number 5, how to think about parenting sensitive children. Bit of a random one, you might think, but something I've been thinking quite a lot about recently. I was a sensitive kid growing up. I've recently become a father, I was speaking to my personal trainer the other day who was telling me about how she's got a daughter in sort of 12 or 13 years old, and she's a sensitive young girl, and we were just talking about how she approaches it, and I was giving her some insights from what I've learned from my experiences and reading a lot about psychology and parenting and stuff like that. So I just wanted to share with you how I think about this and the sort of consolidation of what I've come to understand. First of all, just to clarify what I mean by sensitive child, I'm just talking about a child that has a sensitive nature. They're just born that way. Maybe they have a propensity to internalize things, be a bit more shy, overthink things, be a bit quieter. That's all I mean. First thing is just important to acknowledge if you think that a particular child is more sensitive than the siblings or their friends, etc. It's like, okay, let's just be a bit more mindful that he or she might be a little bit more sensitive to things, and that's a good thing, and it can be a not so good thing. Being sensitive can be a superpower, a high EQ, intuitive, feel more, expression, so many great things, creativity. And on the downside, can be affected more by things and people and situations and experiences. So, obviously the big one is that if, God forbid, there's ever a traumatic event or shocking experience in that child's life and into adulthood for that matter, but let's just stick on the upbringing in childhood. If, God forbid, anything like that was to happen, I think that one does need to pay that little bit more attention to the child and make sure that they're able to express more what's going on. Maybe if there's that parent-child thing, have other people come in and around that they might want to talk to, and try and create an environment where they can express themselves or try and process what's happened, and basically avoid internalizing whatever might have happened and it leading to issues further down the line. Other than that, I think that, most of these things all revolve around helping the child foster self-worth and self-esteem as they go into childhood. So it's avoiding them becoming insecure and having low self-worth, because that has so many knock-on effects with so many different decisions and how they conduct themselves and their psychology in life. So how to do that? How to try to encourage and foster self-worth and self-esteem within a child? Unconditional love, not linked to achievement or success or being a certain way, is crucially important. I think as a parent, to ensure that one's mirroring a good, healthy self-esteem and not being self-critical. I think one has to be careful not to misjudge the opposite to not being self-critical to being a perfectionist. I think it's just being real and demonstrating healthy self-esteem. Things can go well in life and things can go badly, and just expressing in a healthy way. And then I think, going back to what we were saying earlier, I think encourage the child to express themselves. If they have a tendency to be shy and internalize and not talk, try to validate whatever emotions or expressions that they might have, however hard that might be. And then I think how to really kind of foster that self-worth and self-esteem more. I think so much of it comes down to helping the child understand and learn how to think and not what to think. Helping the child make decisions for themselves and resisting the tendency or the temptation to protect and control and to nanny, particularly when the child might be going through difficulties or there's problems or situations. It can be very tempting to feel sorry for and jump in and help out, but really one, I think, has to resist and help empower that child to make its own decisions and get out of the shit itself, or whether it's an expedition or it's a sport or it's a situation with someone at school, not over-parenting and empowering the child to make those difficult decisions and overcome, even at a young age, I think can be super important. And that's it. Those are just ways that I like to think about it. I'm going to be by no means perfect. I'm sure I will make a lot of mistakes myself as a parent. I'm only learning just as my parents were, but we all try our best with the knowledge that we have. And I just wanted to share those things with you. It's something that I think about a lot, and just want to reiterate that I believe all those things that I touched on are healthy for all kids, not just sensitive kids. But like I said, if we're mindful and acknowledge that there is a particularly sensitive kid, then these things might be even more important to think about. So there are my 5 nuggets. I hope you liked it. Please do reach out, and you can email us, you can comment on some of the social media posts. I'd really love to know whether these things resonated with you or whether you want to hear more about these sort of things. I try as much as I can not to preach and not to think I'm a guru, but tie in and give examples and just be honest and real about how these things have affected my own life, and how incorporating and thinking about things differently and doing things differently have just helped me navigate and improve and make better decisions. I'm doing this because I care about all you lot out there. I think that by sharing a lot of this stuff with you guys, maybe I can help you have a little bit of a better life experience, or ignite thoughts and ideas or moments of inspiration in your own life, whether it be personally or professionally. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Until next time. If you enjoyed the episode, please share the love and give us a cheeky follow, rating, like, or review. It really does make a massive difference. Don't be shy either to share any of your favorites on social media. This is a truly mission-driven project with the aim of helping to motivate, inspire, and give hope to as many people as possible that change, a better life, a new dawn is all possible. I genuinely love hearing from you and actively try to constantly improve things and bring guests on to address any specific themes. As always, you'll find resources and links from the episode in the show notes. You can follow me on all social media platforms as well as YouTube. And don't forget to check out my website, charleylaw.com. Until next time.